Hello, America! We hope you enjoyed America's top hit songs. We will now be taking a break from playing music because it's that time of day where we bring in a musical artist to the station. Today, we don't have an artist, but we have Mikhail Moracek from Columbia Records, and he will be talking to us about the music industry.
Thank you, Jake. It is a pleasure to be on the station.
So, Mikhail, if I'm correct, you've been working for Columbia Records from the very beginning, when they started as the American Gramophone Company. Could you take our listeners and I through the ins and outs of the music industry and what occurs at a record label?
That is right, Jake. I began working for the American Gramophone Company in 1887, and a couple of years later we changed our name to Columbia Records. At the beginning we just sold phonographs, and once it became popular to record songs on the wax cylinder discs for the phonographs, we took advantage of this new market, so instead of selling these wax cylinders, we began selling wax cylinders with songs already on them. At a record label, basically when we find an artist we like, we sign them to our record label, and once they are signed, we take care of everything besides composing the music. Once our artist composes a new song, we produce, market, and sell their song.
Now that you've been working for Columbia Records for over 30 years, a lot of new technology has been introduced. Could you talk about the impact technology has had on the music industry?
Yeah, so our first songs that we recorded were recorded on the wax cylinders for the phonographs. Then in 1902, the 12-inch shellac discs were invented, and these discs could hold up to 4 minutes of music, so we switched to those discs. And then in 1904, we switched to the double-sided disc, which could hold even more time, which we used for quite some time. In 1920, 3 major radio stations were established, and we went from selling 2.2 million phonographs in 1919 to selling only 596,000 in 1922, and because of this, the sales of phonograph discs drastically fell. In 1925, we became the first record to completely switch to electrical recording, which completely changed the quality of listening of music. We would use microphones, which could handle a lot more instruments and detect even the quieter sounds, and this is the method of recording we have been using since.
That is extraordinary. Technology has really changed America. We are sorry for taking your business away. Also, 30 years is a lot of time. Do you mind talking about how music has changed since your time at Columbia?
Of course. As time passed, I have noticed the most change not in instruments, but more in the style and rhythms in the music. I'll give you an example. John Philip Sousa. For those listening who are not familiar with him, he was known as the March King and composed marching music, and he was one of the first to be part of Columbia Records. He produced one of his most famous songs, Stars and Stripes Forever, with us in 1897. Do you mind playing that song for us?
Of course.
Now we will compare that with the original Dixieland Jazz Band. This band was truly the forefront of the jazz industry, as they brought jazz out of New Orleans to New York City, and they became a huge hit, and we were able to produce a couple songs with them. But we will just listen to their song Indiana, which was recorded in 1917. Right away, I'm sure everyone can tell how different these songs are from each other, but what exactly is so different about them? Well, I'll have you notice, in Sousa's Stars and Stripes Forever, the instruments playing are mostly brass and wind instruments, with drums and cymbals. His song is a march that signifies coming home to America and the feeling of seeing the stars and stripes while away at war. The song is broken up into 4 strains, each of the strains having a different melody played in different pitches, and in one of the strains, you will notice a little syncopation with the flutes playing offbeat, and the syncopation becomes very prevalent in later ragtime and jazz music. However, you can tell throughout the song the instruments play together. Touching a bit on the technology, we played this from a wax cylinder, and there's a distinct difference in the quality of the sounds between the wax cylinder and the double-sided discs. Now looking at Indiana, jazz bands are broken into a front line with a cornet, clarinet, and trombone, and a rhythmic section with a piano, and a trap set with a drum, tom-tom, cymbals, and a woodblock, and most include a guitar and a string bass or tuba. Instead of the instruments playing together, they weave in between each other, with the cornet carrying the main melody, the clarinet weaving between the cornet with a counter melody, and the trombone playing a simple counter melody. Syncopation is very prevalent in this song, with the instruments playing on the offbeats of the rhythmic and trap sections. So as I said earlier, I noticed the most change in the music, not in the instruments, but in the rhythm and the style of the music.
It's so interesting how much music has changed in just those 20 years. You have talked about how you find the artist and about the music. For the big question: do you look for artists that will fit the current music industry and will sell, or you look for artists that are different from the music industry and might change it, but with greater risk of them not selling? What I'm getting at is, do you feel the music industry influences the music produced, or does the music produced influence the music industry?
That is a great question, Jake. In my opinion, I feel that the music produced influences the music industry. We are not going around looking for specific artists, we are looking for the good ones, and the great ones are usually the ones that are doing something new. I feel that a lot of music is with the timing of the culture around the artists. For example, Stephen Foster, do I feel like he would sell now? I would say no, because his music was aimed at the parlor scene, but his music fit into timing because his simple melody songs allowed a man and a woman to play them when on a date with parents. However, now, that is not the scene anymore. Music has become much more complex, and the culture isn't that anymore. So I think that the music follows the culture, and we honestly just sign any artist we feel is good.
Alright, thank you for your time, Mikhail. It's nice to learn about the ins and outs of the music industry. That wraps up the musical artist section. Time to go back to the music. So let's see what song has been requested. Sammy Kunkel from Pennsylvania.